Activate.
All right, everybody. Welcome to This Pink Cloud. Oh, yeah. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. We are a show that is, I kind of stepped on that.
Say that one
Hold
more
on.
time, dude.
I am DJ Kelly Reverb. There we go.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
We are a show that is all about multiple pathways to recovery, mental health, all that kind of good stuff. As Parker Mullins is taking it in over there going, oh, is that what this show's about? Okay, cool.
Is that right?
I'm cool with that.
What do you know about that?
We'll talk about that.
Right? Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And everybody always loves to see this guy.
Oh, I'm a blush. I'm a blush. My dingus is red right now with excitement.
Dingus. Jesus. Anyway, everybody give it up for Chad LeMans.
Woo! Ow! Ow! Woo! Hey, man. Hey. Hello.
Kind of felt that. Hey, hello.
Hello. Hey,
Hello.
I'm Chad LeMans. I'm here on this TV show. Hello. Hey.
Hello.
Hey. Hello.
Anyway, man, thanks for coming in. I know you're a little under the weather.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
Are you?
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
I've been about it.
I just had a little septoplasty myself.
I don't even know what that means.
That is like an.
That's where you get your wiener
That is, yeah, exactly. No, it's a internal nose job.
No shit.
Yeah, so like where they line up your septum. So
Okay.
I told him he needs
I'm a
his
little
money back,
swollen.
dude. He still looks weird, dude. Yeah.
Right. Man, Chad, you're hilarious, brother. You're hilarious.
Woo! One more time for that. Woo!
Anyway, please, it's like I need to hang a sign on Chad that's like, please don't feed the animals.
Right,
So
right,
just like, just kind of ignore whatever comes out, and
Yeah, for sure.
it goes away.
I ignore me.
There we go.
I would ignore me.
So excited to have this guy. I appreciate you making time for us because
Yeah,
I know
man.
you're a busy dude, but and I would consider you recovery famous
Yeah,
is what I like to
you
say.
said that the other day. It was interesting.
But let's give it up for Parker Mullins, man.
Where do
Yeah,
I
man.
wave? This one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's you.
Yo.
That's you.
Thank you.
So yeah, man, thanks for coming out, dude. I know
Yeah.
you're a busy guy because you have a jewelry store.
And 3 children.
Oh well, there we go, dude. Well, what's the name of the jewelry store?
It is D-Town Jewelers in
Okay.
Richardson.
In Richardson. So it's D-Town, but you're in Richardson. So shouldn't it be R-Town?
Well, when we started the business, we didn't have a store.
Oh,
First
okay.
couple years were like online, Instagram only.
I was going to say out of your trunk style.
Grillz
Hell
on
yeah.
wheels, yeah.
Oh,
I'd
really?
drive to McDonald's, get someone's mold,
Oh,
take
really?
their money, and just hope thuld trust me to bring back a product.
Hell yeah, dude.
I like
2
that.
years of that. It was
Well, dude,
crazy.
but I mean, the history of drug use probably, it was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm used to clandestine
Well,
stuff.
Looking back, hundreds of people placed orders with me and just trusted some stranger to give
At
money. So-
McDonald's.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd meet him at Fuel City or something.
Oh,
So kids in the car and everything.
wow.
So I was working at Chapter House when I started this.
Oh, okay.
So I'd get off of work, drive around taking molds.
Oh, wow.
So I think what I
the
tried
side
to,
hustle.
what I
like
tried to rely on was like a whatever Instagram account that like
Sure.
looked legit, and I would tag customers. And
Right.
so if anyone was skeptical, I'd be like, "Hey, go message customers."
it. Right.
They're all
Yeah.
tagged.
Well, so let's get a little bit of the backstory because
Okay.
I know there was Chapter House involved, which I worked at Chapter House for a little bit, and then obviously there's a story before that.
There's
so
some stuff, yeah.
let's roll it back and take it from there.
So I hadn't told my story in a long time, so
Okay.
I'm not really gonna get too much into
Share
it.
what you want to share. It's an hour show, so
Okay.
it's all good.
Well, I think a lot of my story that's important happened after I got sober,
Okay.
like loss of people and stuff like that.
Right.
So-
Well, and I had that too, but I mean, did you have like a DOC at least?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
give
yeah.
us a little framework.
Yeah, no, we can get into that.
Okay.
Pull this closer.
Well, thank God for my parents. Is that good?
Yeah.
Cool. They're just the best. My dad is super old school. He's like, you do things the right way because that's how you do them. And when I started getting high, and I mean, like, I had drug addict tendencies from the moment I started smoking weed. I would steal money from
Okay.
his wallet. You
Well,
know,
like, where'd you grow up?
Garland.
Okay, Garland.
Just like
okay.
a lot of variables there.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really a great place for, your kids.
Well,
to
I
go to
was born
school
there, and then
or
we
yeah.
moved to Richardson.
Okay.
Actually, so
Yeah. So
So my parents got me out of there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, there's some sketchy parts of every town, though, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that it's gone way downhill.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
I
sure.
think my
Right.
experience with the schools and stuff. So I went to 5 high schools, never finished freshman year. So I
wow.
just, I was always a shithead. I started doing bad drugs, super young. I was like fully addicted to speed at 15.
Okay.
So me and my boy, I didn't know it was methamphetamines. I knew it was speed. I thought maybe it was a different thing.
Yeah.
By the time I figured out it was methamphetamines, I had done it every day and pawned all my video games. And,
Was it like just because I mean
we were
probably
smoking ice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because back then there was also like mini thins and stuff like
All
that
kinds
just
of
had a
weird shit.
Fedra.
Right, right. So I just thought, the interesting thing is a lot of my friends' parents, my friends' moms smoked ice.
Okay.
And I had seen that around. And there was just no way in my head that all of these people I knew had been doing methamphetamines, right?
Right.
So I was like, oh, whatever this is, it's not that bad, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, lots of trouble at school. Andrew knew I was coming up here, and he was like, you got to tell some of your crazy stories. And I was like, I don't really know what to get into.
Yeah.
But I got kicked out of a lot of schools. And then I just gave up that venture. I actually tried to go back one other time, and then I woke up with felony warrants from my experience trying to go back to school again. And
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, I don't really want to get into that stuff because it's
Sure.
illegal, whatever there.
Yeah.
Right.
Legal mumbo jumbo, whatever
Yes.
they call that stuff in the
But
courtroom.
it was dangerous. It was bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, my dad is just such an old school guy.
Right.
And he just said, you want to make adult decisions, get the fuck out. You come back, I'm calling the cops. And he held that. I mean, a few times over a 4-year period, he would let me come to the house. But it was like majority of the time.
Christmas, birthday, maybe.
No. It was like definitely not those days. He, I guess, would get some glimmer of hope because of my manipulation.
Yeah.
Let me come spend the night. Within a matter of hours, cops are on the way. But for the majority of the time, if I showed up, it was like automatic, calling the police.
Right.
So, and then my mom too. My mom's a little bit softer. I could always get her to come buy me McDonald's. But anyway,
Sure.
long story short, I spent the majority of those years homeless.
Right. Well, we were
And-
talking with Andrew about that, and Chad
Right.
was also mentioning that, like, I mean, that's like the tough thing for parents to do to their
Just
kids.
set those fucking boundaries.
But it's
God bless 'em.
necessary,
Yeah.
because if you don't, then you're just going to enable them.
Well, the interesting thing, you just never know, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
There's no guidebook to your drug addict child. And so
True.
my best friend who's dead, his parents did the same thing. He died.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
So, but I'm grateful. I'm still grateful for it. Because when I first became homeless, I was a young teenager and I thought, there's no rules.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
incredible.
This is badass.
I don't mind sleeping outside.
Right.
And, it quickly gets old, but you also get used to your scenario. So I spent time homeless in terrible parts of town. I think it's changed the name now, but Dolphin turns into Hatcher.
Oh, yeah.
The Crossroad, Hatcher and Malcolm X.
Yeah.
There's a car wash right there.
Hey, you going to wind up off, no, you going to wind up off of Dolphin Road.
Oh, yeah.
You know that
I
guy,
slept
right?
at that car wash a bunch of times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, who was that?
That was a guy. That was a guy that it was at the meeting we used to go with Chapter House.
Okay.
and he would always go, "Hey man, you gonna mess up? You gonna wind up?
Yeah,
off,
I might know.
You gonna wind
I
up
don't
off
know.
Dolphin
That's
Road,
good.
man? Yeah,
That's good. Well, I did.
Yeah.
There was a car wash there that I made my home. It was interesting politics in South Dallas too. Like I was a little kid, and it's like known to be dangerous, right?
Sure.
But I would steal copper and shit and whatever. And there's a scrapyard on the Mar. And I would bring Dope Man money every day, and it was like property. Like because I gave him money, nobody was allowed to touch me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like to fuck with me or other customers.
it's fucking with his
Right,
enterprise.
right.
Yeah,
But I learned a lot about, just weird politics over there. Like there's
street politics,
Yes,
man.
There's another bus stop, I don't know, a mile up. It's a big corner bus stop. You guys would know it if you saw it on Malcolm X. And if you stand in a sidewalk square and you just stay there for a second, a car will drive up from down the street to serve you. right? But you have to go to that specific square for them to go, okay, yeah, he's
right.
waiting for us. And
Sure.
then they'll just drive back, weird shit like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen at, your normal part of town or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, I spent some time over there. I love downers more than I like heroin, Xanax, alcohol. But when you get into the drug world of heroin, meth is often free.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of people will just give that to you when they're on heroin. It's like useless, right?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of speed, and then I went through a time where I quit using drugs and just drank, and that got so much worse. So, I became this like filthy, aggressive teenage drug addict. I went
and it's probably harder to get alcohol on the streets than it is to get, maybe other stuff.
I think that in my head, I was going to turn it all around, right? And alcohol was like, okay.
Yeah, the wiener.
Yes. So I like kind of got back around
Right.
my friends, and I went from this like aggressive teenage drug addict to like a stinky, sloppy, drunk, aggressive teenager. It was worse. It was so much worse.
Right.
So at some point, I got back on drugs. And man, I don't know. I kind of went through that cycle a bunch. I filtered through different substances, but I pretty much always did some kind of opiate or benzo and meth.
Right.
Yeah.
But at all times, I was like rotating that.
Some type of combo platter.
Yeah. I always say I hate cocaine. I don't like it. I've never done cocaine and been like, that was a fun experience. I'd like to recapture that. But I've done it thousands of times.
Yeah.
Every time I shoot cocaine, I end up on the floor doing the fish.
Yeah,
which maybe
seizure. Yeah,
ass naked, trying to scream for help, going,
Been
promise
there, done
I'd
that.
never do it again. 25 minutes later, I'm doing it again, and that's like the next 2 weeks.
Hey, firm resolutions lasting less than 30 minutes.
Yes.
I'm a big
And
fan of those.
The moment I do like smoke crack or shoot cocaine, I'm like doing cocaine for weeks.
Yeah.
And then by the
Right.
time, whenever it's done, I'm like, I hate, it was not one bit fun. I'll never do that again. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And then,
Just get me out of this time.
fuck. Sometimes if I like got some money somehow, my biggest thing was copper licks, which I've been arrested for twice.
Right.
It's theft of metals. It's like its own thing. There's a whole community of copper thieves,
Right.
by the way.
And that's funny that you're
Yeah.
into jewelry now.
It is funny. Yeah,
That's
my parents
ironic.
love that. So I would go
Well,
scope
defects
a
to
lick.
assets right there, dude.
What do you mean?
Turning your defects into assets.
Right. My parents are like, you'll never leave that precious metal alone. It's funny. I still collect copper legally. I have a bunch in my garage.
Instead of gold,
Yeah.
you have copper chains.
Well, I have rose gold.
There you go.
Which
There
is
you go.
Copper's used to
That's
mix
true.
to make the colors.
Sure.
So, I'd go scope a lick. Like I'd find a building that was closed down and the air conditioners haven't been hit yet. And then
Right.
I'd go look in the daytime. By the time I went back at night, it had already been hit by somebody else. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And the economy was fucked up, and it was just copper was shooting up. I had friends get like owners of businesses would wait on the top of the business and kill them. I had somebody got electrocuted to death. It was like a big thing. This was 2000.
And I mean, when you're scoring,
know.
okay, so when you're scoring copper licks, as
Yeah.
you said, like, I mean,
Crazy.
Are
I know it
you?
sounds weird,
But are you? Is it really generate that much income to where it's worth it?
Okay, this is a good
With-
question.
you know-
So I met a guy, and then later in life, it was a weird God thing. I helped him get sober. God bless him, Mike Walker. So we
Okay.
would revisit that. But I was busting ass all day and night and making like $30-$40 a day.
Sure.
And he really showed me.
And I mean,
how
that's
to-
like a grocery cart of copper, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it can be.
Right.
He showed me like how to take meters apart, like meters that power the building, and like where to get the good licks and how to do it safely. And I was homeless at the time, and he bought me a set of binoculars as a gift. It was just the coolest thing. And I think kind
All
of
for your hobby.
yeah, well, he
Right.
did this too, right? So like how he showed me, he was like a big dog to me in the copper game.
Yeah.
He was like, I'll be right back. And he showed up an hour later with like $1,000 wire. And I mean, it was this big around. And it took both of us to drag it on the floor into where we were to cut it.
Right.
And he was like, this is what you could be getting.
Right.
You know?
Instead
So
of that scrap. Yeah.
it changed the game for me, but it also encouraged me to just be riskier.
Right.
And like get on top of buildings and like no one's going to hear me. And,
Yeah.
as before I'd go check like off the side of the building every 45 seconds,
Right.
And so anyway, it was crazy. It was
I just never really took that big of a deep dive into that. But I mean, it had to be, worth your time at least.
Well, and it became an obsession too.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I did like the breaking into houses and robbing old ladies and some of that kind of stuff. But I had some really close calls with some of that. And so I think it was safer, and it was addicting for sure. So I think the obsession to
the
steal,
adrenaline, I could imagine, I mean, getting away with it.
The obsession to steal became as powerful as getting high. So here's an interesting fact. I knew that I was going to get in fucking big trouble. So I thought, I've got to not do this. So I started trying to yo-yo in the kitchen, and I had like yo-yoed a little bit as a kid. Anyway, I started yo-yoing to try to keep myself distracted so I wouldn't go outside and steal. Anyway, I'm killer at yo-yo. It didn't work very well.
I'm going to have to cut in some video of you.
I need to I have a nice one.
Okay, send it to me.
It would work 15 minutes at a time. It would keep me inside, and then I'd go back out. But whatever, it could have saved my life. Who knows? I've been electrocuted more times than I can tell you from trying to turn power off places.
Like where you're tasting it in your mouth?
Usually not. I had one time off of, you guys might know this. Do you know where Barbex was? The breakfast restaurant?
I do,
on Buckner? Garland Road?
Garland Road, yeah.
So it's closed now.
Yeah. I loved Barbex, by the way.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Love Barbex. Great. Behind it, there were these buildings. I don't know what the fuck. Office buildings.
Sure.
Kind. So there was I called it the Great Snowstorm of 2011. It's right before I got sober. I was outside. It was awful, but it was so snowy that I could steal so easily. Nobody could see me,
Right.
Anyway, I had hit all the air conditioners on this little spot, and then I went back a couple days later. All the snow was gone, and I was trying to turn the meter off, and I just woke up on the floor or on the cement maybe 10 feet from the meter with some lady over me. And then I look at my channel locks, and they were totally melted. So I thought, okay, that's pretty fucking bad. That's 440 volts or whatever. Like thank God the channel locks took most of the blow or whatever, But so I've had that happen. That was
okay. So do you think you woke up, passed out from being electrocuted?
Yeah, I think
probably,
or it blew me back and I hit my head. I don't really know.
Wow.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's movie shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I have people like come tell me these like stories of times they've been electrocuted with 110 volts and how it hurt them. I'm like, dude, I've been shocked 110 volts 200 times.
Yeah.
It just holds you there. It doesn't hurt,
Right.
But whatever. And then another thing, I think the copper stealing had a lot to do with this, and then plus being homeless junkie, but a lot of abscesses.
Okay.
A lot of times I'd have these terrible, all over my body. I'd go to the hospital some, but I learned how to cut them open myself.
Okay.
Apple cider vinegar and baking soda, make a little paste, put it on there.
Little home remedy.
Little, bandana wrap, and it will actually pull out the infection.
Yeah, there is. So,
Chad, why weren't you doing that?
Well, because, dude, you think I was going to go buy apple cider
it's
vinegar?
funny that it's my mom. I would show up to my mom with these terrible fucking abscesses. I couldn't walk, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And she would always doctor it and put apple cider vinegar on it. And so it was just a thing that she told me.
Okay.
So that's why I did it.
There was so that's funny you say that. Yeah. Cause the vinegar, draws out stuff. Cause I used to get really bad, sores on not sores. They're like cysts on my fake leg. Right. Cause I had what they called Baker's cyst where the knee fluid doesn't go around it, right?
Right.
So it starts building up in the back, and there was bamboo vinegar extract pads that you would put on it.
Same shit.
Exactly, and it would pull out the fucking fluid because it's more of it's like an osmosis thing or whatever.
I don't know
I never thought about that.
If the baking soda has a medicinal purpose, or if it's just to make the paste, right?
Yeah, probably
just pour vinegar, it just rolls off.
Right. Yeah. Probably gives it a little stickiness. Yeah.
But interesting.
Well, that'd be a good clip.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, it was, it's junky stuff, IV, I'd go back and forth from different things. We've all got our shit, right?
Yeah, right.
Whatever the homeless, drug addict lifestyle leads you to. It's funny, as I was walking to the door, my life is so close quarters today. My jewelry store is one light down from my house.
Right.
The kids are one light down in any direction.
You've got your area. Right. Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time downtown around here, just wandering around,
Right.
And I carry a pistol everywhere I go,
Yeah.
And as I was walking here, I thought, man, like how strangely familiar. I hadn't walked down this street in fucking 10, 12 years or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
And so it's just
And
interesting.
do you walk by and go, oh, I hit that building, I hit that building?
Not right here, but
yeah.
there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. You know, there's especially you drive like from Garland, just I-30 up here,
Right.
Or like 635 north where it turns from
Sure.
I-30. That whole section.
Well,
There's,
so
buildings I
how
can
long
see and
was the homelessness slash
4 years.
Okay.
So what would happen is I'd meet or one of my friends, them or their family would feel bad for me. Take me in.
Yep.
I would just, I was probably miserable to have there or be around.
Right.
That would end. I'd go back and do my thing. I'd end up somewhere else. And it was always these short stints. Or I'd manipulate a girl or something, One time I convinced a family that my parents were drug addicts and I'd been put in this terrible situation.
Right.
Stuff like that. It was always very short-lived. I had a lot of good people look out for me.
Right.
And just never knew
And
how
taking
to,
full advantage of that, right?
Yeah, I never had the ability to appreciate that and try to, I didn't have any desire to do anything different,
right.
Or whatever. So,
hey, before you go on, real quick, we're gonna reset this. We're not gonna redo the whole thing. We're just gonna and we're back.
Okay,
cool.
We're back, and
that's great.
See.
We were just talking abscesses.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, we were.
Well, just to touch on that for the purpose or whatever, it's the things that having diarrhea, just being sick to your stomach and being a heroin addict and being homeless and just squirting shit on the side of the road. Coming out from where you're sleeping, if you can, crawl that far so you don't have to deal with smelling that. It's that stuff that, like, walking down the street right here, it all flashes. It's like, oh, yeah, that was my life.
Yeah.
Right.
You forget a little bit. You forget, shooting up in the hospital because you have to.
Right.
Man.
Just but that becoming your norm, dude, is just like crazy for somebody that didn't experience it to wrap their mind around it. So like this was from what, 15 to 19?
Yeah. Well, to 20.
To 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really, and I had been fucked up before I was 15. That's just when it really took off, and it went. And it wasn't necessarily that the using made me fucked up. It's when my mind left. I just made a snap, and so as a result of that, the using got fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have that point where you just like you and nobody else? Well, some other people might have given up on you, but you gave up completely on yourself.
100%. And I think I had done that a little bit before that.
Yeah.
But
well, you kind of don't you give up hope when you go, oh, I'm going to go ahead and be homeless.
Oh,
that's the beginning of it.
There's
right?
a certain amount that you
wanted
give up.
that at that point. I wanted that freedom.
Yeah.
'Cause before that, I think my parents were like hoping they could reel me in.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about the comfortability when you're homeless, and it's like, dude, I could literally
when you're a kid
just survive. Like, and it's like nothing.
Right.
It's literally, it doesn't seem like you're struggling after a certain point.
Yeah, you get super used to it, right?
It's crazy,
and to be honest with you, I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty resourceful. I remember one time my little brother, he was homeless with me. My mom came to see us, and it was freezing cold, and it had been raining, and we had a broken out window in his car, and rain was like getting in the bottom and then freezing inside the car. And she was like, well, you guys just got to fix this. You're going to die. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to go get some duct tape. And she goes, what do you mean?
Duct
and
tape?
I said, give me
fix
5
anything,
minutes. I'll just
dude.
find some duct tape.
Right.
Anyway, sure enough, I come back with a roll of duct tape, and she's just like, you're homeless. You don't own shoes. How'd you just acquire a roll of duct tape? And I remember I stole it off someone's porch or something, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just at the time in my life, like whatever I needed, I would just get.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole like God looking out for you kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe so. It's funny that you say that because I just like, if I needed a new pair of pliers, I'd just find one.
Just magically
Right.
appear.
Yeah. And my mom always said I was like Junkie MacGyver.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Dude.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was in a shelter during that tornado that hit Walnut Hill and Harry Hines and Northwest Highway.
What was
years ago?
Okay.
Like 2018, 2019.
Okay. Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
we were in a hut that was made out of pallets, right? And it had the old DG's strip club sign over the top.
That's so funny.
Because they had got rid of it.
I forgot we had talked about that area.
Yeah, because that's where I was at. And I slept through that fucking tornado, which like 1,000 feet from me had ripped the roof off the 7-Eleven.
Slept through it.
I slept right through it. I woke up in the middle of the night to take a piss, and it was all red outside, and there was no cars, and that's really weird on Northwest Highway. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So then when I woke up the next day, I seen all this damage. I was like, what the hell happened?
Right. I love that. You know? It's like, you know, your life's tornadoes, and you definitely didn't have time to like wake up and be scared for that.
No, not at all, dude. I'd been sleeping several days at that point.
So I was going to say before we get to,
well, just to
go ahead.
touch on, you know, after South Dallas, I had ended up spending some time over there. Yeah, and it's rough.
Did you ever? Were you ever in prison or jail?
I've been arrested for several felonies.
Okay,
I've gotten in some trouble. Most of the felonies were either adolescent or my adult ones were copper theft.
Now, when you were in jail, was it kind of like a break from being homeless?
Well, you know, I did the typical. You get arrested and you go, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this is the thing that's
going to fix me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I have the same story as everybody. Is the day you get out, while you're there, you have all the best plans. And the day you come home and it's just like,
right.
You know, 15
not so
minutes.
much.
I remember one time my dad thought he's been in there a while, right? This is going to be the one. Let me pick him up, right? Because there had been so many times I had gone to jail. I'd call my dad and he'd say tough shit, and then I'd just walk from Lucero or wherever, you know, when I'd get out. So he picked me up. Oh, man, I'll never forget it. And this was like something when I got sober, this moment, looking back on this, it was like, oh, I was so uncomfortable, right? In my own skin. So I should be happy. My father picks me up. He brings me into his house, which is the house I grew up in. What a blessing to be there. I've got something to eat. And he makes these sandwiches, one for me, one for him, and he sits down and turns the TV on, and he sits back on the couch next to me and goes, and this was like a moment for him.
Right.
And I was like, Dad, you got to let me have like $6 or something. You know, can I just have like, I'm just going to go to the Easy Mart and I need to get a pack of cigarettes and I just need to just walk there for a minute. And in my head, I just wanted a pack of cigarettes or something. Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, no.
Right.
Smoke one of my fucking cigarettes.
Right.
You know, eat the sandwich.
Right.
And I was like, Dad, I just got to do something. And we ended up getting into it. I think we probably got in a physical fight, which was super common.
Yeah. Okay.
And he may or may not have called the police, but whatever. You know, by the end of it, I was leaving and I was going, fuck him.
Well, okay.
And why couldn't he just give me $6? Right? But the truth is I couldn't sit there and eat that sandwich.
I was going to say, let's get to the uncomfortable part. Right. So what was it that was making you so uncomfortable in your own skin?
That's what we believe in, you know, 12-step fellowships is spiritual malady. So this is something that later when I was sobering up, I looked at some of these scenarios and I went, oh shit, that's me. And that was that at that time.
Right.
But at the time I just thought, like, what a fucking dick. He wants me to sit here.
Yeah.
I've been locked up. I need to walk around.
Yeah, he can't give me $6, dude. Yeah.
Fuck him.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And then that was it. But looking back at that moment was one of those things that I go, oh, yeah, this is me, you know, when I'm learning about step one and stuff.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's get to a little bit of the recovery part after we do the commercial. We've got our good friend Max the Axe with Lone Star Injury Attorneys. If you go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys.
If the internet's up.
He practices in California. Yeah, don't feed the animals, like I said, dude. He practices in California and in Texas, and he will get you the maximum results for your personal injury needs.
Yeah, man. His name's Maxie X.
That's right.
Rhymes.
And he's
cool.
a good dude.
It's a cool name.
Good dude.
I said it, not Kelly.
Yeah, there you go. Well, actually, he said it, not me.
Yeah, I know. So you still didn't say that it was a cool name.
And so you didn't say it. He said it.
Yeah, but I said it.
Cool name.
Yeah, Parker said it. Kelly never said it was
Parker
a cool
said it. And then also we got some new stuff out now. Actually, the intro song for the show is out now. That's called Activate. But I think we also have a remix of it that our good friend Falcone.
And congratulations on his 12 years.
Yeah, shout out 12 years.
Woo!
All right. variables.
Yeah. Same with my business.
Right.
You know.
Anyway, welcome back, dude. So you can get those. Actually, they're streaming on Spotify. So just look up Kelly Reverb, Chad LeMans.
And we apologize for the video
our-
skipping so much in random parts because it's doing that, and
Well,
I have zero control over it.
Okay, it happens.
So
You're doing a bad job.
Yeah, I'm doing a
It's
bad
all
job. I do a
Chad's-
bad job.
It's
I do a bad
Chad's
job.
fault. If this episode is unwatchable, it's Chad's fault.
Yeah, and if it's good, then it's me and Parker's fault.
There you go.
You
There
know
you
what I
go. And then, but also, we're streaming on Spotify, and the Reflector they can get on SoundCloud.
Yes,
so if you
and
go
it
to-
is a free download,
There
and
you
it
go.
is a
Yep.
pretty cool rework of that song.
Yeah. So anyway, but
Parker listens
all
to
right,
it like
so
3 times a day,
Yeah,
right?
I do.
Does he?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I masturbate. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that, dude.
Yes, you can.
Jamie, pull up videos of Parker masturbating to Reflector.
The Jack vids I sold you this morning. Well, okay, this is good, right?
Right.
So it's on the topic of masturbation. You wanted to get into the recovery part.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
So this was
I
like,
like how masturbation
no, this is step
ties
one.
into.
You'll see.
Okay.
so this is not in any way like the worst scenario I had been in, right? But for
Okay.
whatever reason, the truth hit me hard.
Okay.
So I had gotten arrested again for stealing copper. And I knew the game. Like, I'm not an idiot. If I see a detective, they don't have evidence,
Sure.
right? So if I'm in a room with a detective, I'm good. So I had gotten arrested. They told me exactly what had happened. And I just told them, man, I'm homeless and you just caught me walking. You're crazy and I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I pled not guilty at arraignment. Anyway, I knew that I was good. I knew they were missing something.
Right.
So they didn't actually catch me in the act. I had ran and hid in a dumpster for some hours, and then they, found me walking, whatever. Anyway, so I get out. And I had I'm done, right? I'm never going to steal again. I'm not going to do drugs, whatever. And I was in Garland City jail, and I get out. And so within, it may have been 3 or 4 hours, I was in Mesquite. I was tweaking, and I got spotlighted stealing copper. And a few hours later. And so I ran to this apartment complex that I had kind of squatted in and then dated a girl that lived there. And so it was familiar.
Yeah.
I ran to the
You kind
complex.
of knew good hiding spots.
So there was one of the dumpsters with the 3-way fence around it. So I get behind the dumpster. I've got all this copper like wire and stuff in my jacket pockets. And I can hear the cops driving around looking, trying to see where I had gone to.
Right.
Anyway, I thought, well, I'm going to be here a while. I might as well strip all this wire.
Right.
So I strip all the wire, and then I thought, when you're homeless and whatever, you still get horny. So I thought, well, I'm going to be here a while. I'm just going to jerk off. So I did.
Hold on.
Let's
paint that picture.
there's more.
While you're behind the dumpster.
I got on one shoe.
Okay.
I'm bleeding.
Okay.
Dick in hand. Cops are around. Yeah. So this is something when I'm on heroin, all of that drive or you don't care about sex, right? And so, but at that moment, I wasn't on heroin. I was on speed.
Right.
So it's the exact opposite.
Right. So like that specific scenario, I had done probably 200 times in my life.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
But that moment, just getting out of jail. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and I'm able to see myself from above myself. And I got the dick in hand, and I don't know where my other shoe went. I lost it running, right? And there's when you strip wire, little copper shavings get everywhere, and I just went, man, no matter how bad I want to, I don't have the ability to stop. It's the first time I had ever said that to myself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I walked, 5 miles or something to my boy Johnny's house. And I knew the back door would be unlocked. I jumped the fence, went in the back door, found one of their phones, texted my mom, and said, I'll go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and she just knew it was me. She didn't know the number or whatever. She just knew. And so somehow I got a hold of them later that day. And I had also, things were really bad. I got this best friend, Davis, and then CJ, who's my little brother. I'd live with his family. He'd live with mine. Right. Kind of thing. And we just went through everything together. So things had gotten really bad. CJ had got arrested on one of my copper thefts.
Oh, okay.
And so he had gotten arrested.
Did he like
for
take
that.
the fall for you, or?
No, but he was my driver and his license plate. I tried to write a statement saying that he didn't do anything.
Right.
You know, the shitty thing is that I had stolen that air conditioner from one of my best friend's houses.
Oh, wow.
And so that best friend was now super mad at CJ and I.
Yeah,
Rightfully so.
Of course.
Anyway, so we were just so fucked, and Davis was off his rocker. You know, it's one of my best buds, and they're both dead, by the way.
Oh, wow.
These two, my best friends of all time. So, anyway, I had like come to this acceptance that I was ready to die, and it was such a peaceful thing.
And you're at what, 20?
19.
19,
Yeah,
okay.
I was so
and you're
like,
okay,
happy.
you're ready to die.
God, I
Yeah,
was so
wow.
happy of the thought that this didn't have to go on, right? So I like had my dad come and meet me at Duck Creek Park, and we just like chatted, and I told him, and you know, anyway, I told him it was the first time in years that I could just cry to my dad and tell him what was going on, and he wasn't lecturing me, and he wasn't. He was just sad, and he just said, "I love you too, son." And I just got out and walked away, and he said to himself, "Well, that's the last time I saw my son." You know, and it was shortly after that I texted my mom. So I go to Homeward Bound.
Okay. Shout out Homeward Bound.
Shout out
Love.
Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
Great people. I don't
Yeah.
remember this at the time. They gave you mad Ativan.
Right.
And I guess I had some super nasty abscess on me, and they were a little worried about that. I think my case manager, who I've been told was a real great guy, he said something that upset me, and I like flipped the desk over. I get real aggressive. Ativan, Xanax does that too.
Yeah,
right.
There's people that go to sleep and people that get mad and steal.
Oh,
And I'm down-
Yeah. There's,
I was
it's either a lick or you're passed out.
Yeah.
I was just talking about like how hydrocodone.
Yeah.
Like I did, you know, for my nose for the surgery.
Right,
I had
right.
hydrocodone, and I was like, dude,
You got any more?
I was no. I was like, dude, this shit makes me angry.
Right.
Fucking-
I was like, dude,
he
I'm
calls
like
me in the
fucking
middle of the
like,
night.
I'm like pissed for
He-
no
he, like,
reason.
cusses you out.
He called me in the middle of the night. He
just,
goes,
like,
dude,
pissed.
when you take this stuff, or when you took this stuff, did it make you just like super mad
Like
all the
short
time?
fuse,
I was like,
dude.
dude,
Yeah.
why do you think I fucking used to yell at you so much? Dude?
Right. That's so good. Oh, that's funny.
I yell at him less now, but I still yell at him.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So-
good. Well, so to that being said,
Yeah.
I got kicked out of there. Homeward
Okay.
Bound immediately, pretty
Wow.
much. A few
Well,
days in.
Yeah.
And
The old desk flip will do it, dude.
I just woke up in my dad's truck, and
Yeah.
I thought, oh, thank God. Back
Right.
again.
Right.
You know, here I
Yeah.
went to appease them.
Yeah.
Now I've got this, opportunity.
Uh-huh.
And so my dad goes, I found another spot for you. It's called Turtle Creek.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Your case manager that you flipped the desk on referred, this place to me or whatever. the
Sure.
fuck. So I'm sitting at his house with an agreement to go,
Okay.
and I beg him for $20, and I just say, Dad, I've got to get something. I know I'm gonna go. I just need you to allow me this. I'll do it here. I don't even have to leave. And he didn't, but I acquired it somehow. I don't remember how, but I remember making a shot in my room at my dad's house. And I didn't know this was my last time getting high. I had no idea. I definitely didn't think so, right? But I remember making the shot and crying, and this is a pretty common thing, and having this like weird subconscious thought, this isn't making me happy.
Right.
Why aren't I feeling relieved? And anyway, we got up and we went to Turtle Creek, and I got there at 6 a.m. or some shit, whatever. And they told me I didn't want to be there, truthfully.
Right.
And
Well, those places are like a triage unit. So it's
Yeah.
like they take whoever's the worst off and there, come on,
So-
kind of thing.
I didn't want to go.
Of course.
And they said, we want you to tell us everything, right? For purpose of whoever's the worst off.
Right.
So I give them all the whatever. And I mean, I'm like, IV user, homeless, all the things that are high risk.
Right.
Every single box.
Right.
And so,
Chronic masturbator.
yeah, they say,
Copper masturbator.
I'm sorry, we can't admit you.
Right.
And I just started crying because when they pulled that from me, I was hoping so bad they'd tell me I couldn't go so I could just leave and say, oh, I tried, see?
Yeah.
And when they pulled that from me, I broke down. And part of me came out and was like, oh, I actually want this. And they said I
Right.
had to go detox. So I went to Dr. Patel.
Okay.
If you guys know.
Don't know.
Soulless was the name of his business.
Okay.
Anyway, dude would kind of do whatever you want. He wrote me a paper saying I was medically cleared.
Uh-huh.
So I went back the next day and I got in.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And I stayed at 30 days. This was 2011. So I turned 20 a week into treatment.
Okay.
So I was, all the way through 19, go to treatment, turn 20. Anyway, something happened for me there. I hate to say what is so cliche or whatever, but God made himself available. And I had a lot of people say they wouldn't sponsor me. I guess I was like rocking back and forth for a long time. And people that are my friends today, you know, have come and said, hey, bro, I'm sorry for telling you no. I didn't think I could handle it.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, you look like, I mean, you were probably like a flight, you know, and like you're not the most desirable, like they don't believe that you're actually into it.
When
and,
I looked
you know,
whacked, I had these crazy braids in my hair and these shitty tattoos, and I talked very, poorly or whatever the fuck. And my voice, I guess from years of being homeless, was extremely raspy. So after I had been sober for a few months and could start to talk normal again, people were like, what? Oh my God! I've known you all this time. Well, no, when mute, it's that I spoke like Darth Vader all the time.
Right.
What I sounded like.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot.
Can you give us a little sample?
It's probably, something like that. I think my friends would make fun of me and say, hey, you got a cigarette? You know, because that was me before I got sober.
Right.
So anyway, people came and did stick, man. I saw step one and I hated it because my plan was to just I had this terrible probation that I had absconded from, by the way.
Okay.
And then my plan was to get all of that right, maybe learn how to outsmart myself and smoke some weed and
dial it back.
Right.
Right.
And I saw step one, and I always say I'm a man of experience, not of belief systems. And these fucking shithead people came in, and I could tell that they loved cocaine and didn't do it anymore or whatever. And they were bad people, which I needed, you know?
Yeah, man.
And I just saw it in their eyes that they were shitheads.
Right.
And I saw step one, and I looked at some of that, and I said, fuck, that's me.
Yeah.
And I cannot lie to myself about it, you know? And it's interesting, we were talking about obsessed with copper. On the third floor, which was the men's floor at Turtle Creek, I had snuck in a pair of pliers. And I was trying to figure out.
Just in case.
I was trying to figure out how to get. I could see the AC units from the building across the street.
Oh,
I was trying to figure out how to get out and get those.
Do you still do that in your head?
I've got an eye for it.
Okay.
But I don't think, how do I make a plan, right?
Right,
But,
yeah.
I'll tell you there's something, because I live in a nice neighborhood now. I'll tell you something about that in a minute. But I wanted to stash the AC coils for when I got out so I could have something to
you got a little something in the bank.
Right. Anyway, I went to an Oxford house, had an awesome experience.
Cool.
I got sober. I did the steps.
Right.
The rest is history. I struggled. I struggled with sex. I struggled with
no back
aggression.
no back and forth with the drugs. Like once you got clean, then it was like, okay, let's figure this out and try to navigate without.
I had the perfect storm a little bit. I know that probation never keeps anyone. So I had always, by the way, all that time through teenage years, I was on probations. I had just absconded from them or whatever, would show up, fail my year. They just thought, oh, this fucking poor kid is super junky. He can't even help it. I actually got into the mental health division of the Dallas County Court.
Okay.
MHMR.
Because they thought I was just so whack. I convinced them that I thought I had gotten my GED. And they were like, good enough. He believes it.
Right.
And so anyway, I just had the perfect storm.
Okay.
God presented himself to me. There was people that surrounded me.
Well, so you go into Turtle Creek and you're still casing the joint for copper.
Yeah.
So what happens in between there and Oxford House that all of a sudden this epiphany, this spiritual awakening happens?
I realized I couldn't. It's not like my dad was going to let me come home after this 30 days, right? I went to court. I saw the judge. I had gained 30 pounds in this short amount of time. And he goes,
what were you down to?
120 something.
120, just like a stick figure with...
pretty bad.
Yeah. Stick man yourself.
Yeah. And the judge is like, I don't even know who you are standing in front of me.
Right.
And he's like, I don't do this. I'm usually pretty hard on people. He goes, you're going to have an easier sentencing. He just retried me right there.
Okay.
I had a 7 to 7 curfew unless I was at AA. So I couldn't be out before 7 or after 7.
Okay.
And then all these other stipulations, right? And he goes, let's see how you do. Let's just give it a shot. And this guy, God bless him, he's dead now too, Eddie Watson, he came to Turtle Creek. And that dude, he could smoke enough crack to kill a horse, dude. But his mouthpiece, the way God worked through him, and I thought, this guy sucks. He's fucked up. And he's telling me, and he lived at that house. And he goes, dude, I got a spot. Come on. you know. Anyway, the day I moved in, he moved out and got high or what, shortly after.
Right.
Whatever. But it was just enough to get me there, right? I had all of these things where I was on the fence and then something would happen. It was just enough to get me to the next spot. So as I went through the steps, I still have my first inventory. It's very poorly written. It was the best I could do. It just got me through. I spent a lot of nights in the Oxford house thinking about killing myself, up all night. Not able to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And I just didn't. And the obsession of drugs had been pulled from me, but I still felt so unhappy.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think that's why we all start using, and it's that whole being uncomfortable in your own skin, and this makes us feel comfortable temporarily.
And then I started doing the whole lots of women thing.
Right.
At some point, as life started to expand, I finally got a job after being sober a year. I got a job working construction, had a group of friends, and I had this cool life, right?
Yeah,
so, like, friends of mine that were doing the junkie thing would go, oh my God, look at Park. Now I look back, it was such a not cool life. Yeah. But I ended up, Doug, who's still my sponsor, he pulls me out of a meeting and goes, man, I know what you're up to, man. I see you running around I know this. And I needed some help, around some of that behavior I had in sobriety. And, we went back through the work and I started investigating all of those times of uncomfortability. Right. Because before that, everything I could regurgitate was just things I had heard in meetings and that I thought sounded cool. Right. And so I started to dive into the big book. Someone, I think it may have been Mark Houston. Some speaker was like, don't ever let anyone read your big book for you. So I was like, well, what does that fucking mean? And what it means is I can't just go to a meeting and this guy says, this is what this means. Well, how does he know, right? The problem that I've seen in the rooms of recovery is it's the same thing with heroin. Is we get this heroin and it's super good, but then it goes to you and you want to make more money and you cut it in half and then it goes to you and then you cut it in half.
Stepping on the product.
Right, and then by the time it gets to me, it's like some junk fucking solution, right?
Some goddamn Dr. Pepper that's been microwaved.
And I need like thick chocolate milk, and you know what I'm saying?
Thick chocolate spiritual
what I have
milk, dude.
at this point is light iced tea, and I don't want that.
Right.
And so the same thing, if we look at when AA started and how it's been passed down, and you hear so many people go, well, step 3 to me is, well, it's never meant to be step 3 to you. Right. That's the problem. Yeah. And so now here we are, 80 years later from, when all this started, and what we have is this like watered down solution with people being taught someone else's understanding of the big book and of the steps. So I dove into that. I dove into what it was trying to tell them at the time and how this was meant to be explained. And there was a lot of things that I had misunderstood. And anyway, so I went on from that. Friends started dying. Met a girl, had a baby. It's my daughter. And, so although my friends were struggling and people started dying, I had some real things. Like I was working construction, but I actually started to get good at it, right? Like I could take my own work truck to the job and,
Well, you already knew how to handle copper, dude.
Yeah, I had a little help, When we would have plumbing jobs and stuff, I was like, I know how to do this.
I got you. I got you.
So I met a girl. We had a baby. She didn't stay sober. It was tough. He was not up and down with that. Then my best friend my brother had gotten out of prison, by the way, and he was like, I don't want to be obsessed with AA like you, but I'll go. Anyway, he got sober. Beautiful experience. Stayed sober until he died. But so our best friend Davis had a really tough time, been in and out of prison a few times. Ended up dying 2014 in Louisville, suicide by police. It was a terrible thing all over the news. It was like crazed maniac with a shotgun. It was like the best guy I've ever known. Right. But he was that. He was a crazed maniac. But it was intentional. Right. He knew he had tried once before and they didn't kill him. He knew if he didn't fire first, they wouldn't shoot him. Right. So he did. And that was, man, it rocked me. Oh, so tough. And after that, his parents, they're just the best people ever. And they said, Parker, you need to go work in recovery. So God wants you to spend all of your time helping others. Right. And you do that for us. So I took that job at Chapter House. Okay. Right after that, they told me that. Yeah. Aaron Stacy had called, who was, opening it with them. Right. He had called and said, bro, I want you to come work for us. Okay. So I didn't want to work in recovery.
Sure.
It was just a thing. I couldn't ignore it. There it was, you know, right in my face. So I went there.
Doing what's right in front of you, man.
Right. And, you know, as I continued trying to, you know, with my daughter's mom, it was on and off. It was tough.
Right.
She had a really tough time.
Yeah. How was that trying to work? And then, you know, obviously the mom's back out and then you
would be back out, back in.
Yeah. So like, I mean, would you like take care of the kid
most
of the time?
Grandparents were super
okay,
helpful.
Cool. Yeah, that helps.
Daycare and stuff. But yes. And, man, I felt so alone though.
Right.
You know, it was tough.
Sure.
And I kept trying to do this like, I'm going to be a good man and just like welcome her back. And the truth is she didn't want to be back.
Right.
So at some point I had to accept that, and that was okay.
Right.
Because she needed to go have her experience, you know. And I drove myself crazy trying to stop her from having that experience.
Right.
You know?
And you can't control that.
I can't.
It's something
I
you
can't.
can't.
I totally had a new experience around addiction. For the first time I got to see myself.
How it feels from your parents' perspective. Right.
It changed a lot. You know, for me, you know, my parents. Anyway, there's a lot I'm skipping over. I guess the big thing is like at some point in my recovery, I figured out that what I had experienced wasn't it. And then that's when I went back through the book and tried to learn and have a real experience with God, and that I had made. You know, and I was very anti-God growing up. Just by the time I came to Turtle Creek, I was like, whatever the fuck. I'm not it. You know, so cool. You know, you believe in something, I don't care.
Right.
And that's like, you know, comes down to step one, right? Like if you're super miserable, you'd be willing to admit that you've been wrong about spirituality your whole life. You know?
Right.
So anyway, I dove into that and I realized that for so long I had been worshiping the process rather than the power.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of the 12 steps was never to worship the steps and never to worship fellowship,
right?
You know, or your group or whatever. It was always to get you to point B.
Well, and I think that, I think that's important that you point that out, because I think a lot of people also that kind of turns them off from the entire 12-step process is that they're like, oh, this is some weird cult shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or this is like religion based or whatever, because,
luckily for me on that, whatever, I thought, I don't give a fuck. I'll be a part of a cult.
Hell yeah.
I don't care.
Right? Yeah.
You know, whatever.
I'll be a recovery
if this
cult.
doesn't work, I'll just kill myself. Who cares, right? Like I can always just go get high.
Your misery will be refunded at the door.
It's so easy to refund that, right? So I was like, I'll fucking do the cult thing, whatever. I don't care. So I did it. I did the cult thing so good, you know. Man, I've sponsored hundreds of guys.
Right.
I did 2 H&Is a week. You know, I'd find shitty treatment centers with no solution and just start there. And,
right.
You know, I went to Turtle Creek for years, every Sunday, super involved in my home group. But again, that it just became more apparent as people would fall off is worshiping the process rather than the power.
Yeah.
So I would see people and they'd come in and they go, you know, you don't say sorry during an amends because it doesn't fucking mean anything. It's like, dude, all these politics and all this bullshit, it's stupid. Semantics and it's stupid. You should fucking say sorry. You just have to back that up, you know? And so it's like this worship of the 12-step process became so apparent to me, right? And so I learned that I had to continue to help others and you know, trust God, clean house, but whatever I had, it had to go deeper. I had no idea what that meant.
Right.
You know? Anyway, so I'm working at Chapter House. My little brother works at Chapter House.
Okay.
We're killing it, taking care of my daughter at the time.
Right.
And he meets this girl. They fall in love. Such a beautiful thing that, you know, and she's sober. She's like, you know, this orphan kid with had this tough life, finally found her little family. And he drives her home in the middle of the night, car crash, both of them die.
Oh, wow.
And so before that, you know Heidi, right?
Yeah.
So Heidi tells me.
Heidi's one of the owners at, at Chapter
Heidi's
House.
awesome.
Yeah.
So the night before CJ dies, or the day before, maybe the day of, I'm in her office and she's like, I'm going over this shit with Riley's mom and then my, you know, this and that, whoever else had just died. And she goes, your life is a real live country song.
Right.
Like it is a real constant chaos coming to you, you know? And she goes, but you'll always have CJ. You'll always have him. You know, we just were so close. And she goes, no matter what, he'll always be there for you. He died that night.
Wow.
Right? Oh, I know. And so that, man, I broke down in my kitchen And, you know, I just said to myself, God, whatever this is, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done with the puzzle and the game.
Yeah.
Why would you bring me this far and bring him this far with me just to take him away after all the other loss, you know?
Yeah.
And I stayed sober through it.
Right.
But I was done with the God stuff.
Right.
Luckily, the owner of Burning Tree actually had donated some money, and then some other people pitched in, and they sent me to Onsite, which is a trauma workshop in
Yeah,
Tennessee.
because I was going to ask you about that, because I remember you bringing that
the
up.
best. And
Yeah,
it
let's hear
saved my life.
Okay.
It's like a super intensive psychodrama, traumatic. They do different types of workshops.
Right.
This one was for trauma.
Okay.
Now, man, I mean, God, if I hadn't gone, I don't know what would happen. And God,
You might be out again, you know, for sure.
or
For
dead,
sure. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I'm so out to defeat myself.
Right.
I hadn't thought about getting high in so long, but suicide creeps in, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's where it was. I thought, well, why get high? Just to manufacture more misery. I can
Right.
just check out.
Yeah.
So God spoke to me there. He touched me there, and some, you know, opened my heart to see this big picture, right? And what that was like, CJ was his kid, right? And it was time for me to let him come home so I could take care of my kid that he gave me to take care of.
Sure.
Right? And I started thinking, man, maybe it's time to step out a little bit because my whole life was so infatuated and obsessed with AA. Not that that's a bad thing, right?
Right.
We need that. So,
Sure.
But I had some things that had built. And so anyway, I stopped going as much. I started trying to be a regular father.
Right.
I met a girl. And she had a son. So we had our little Brady Bunch family, and then we have a son together now.
Right.
Who's a maniac. Yeah. So we've been together a little over 6 years. We're now married. So it was at that moment at Onsite, I realized it was like God said, thank you for everything that you've done. Now I've got some other stuff for you.
Right.
Right. To focus on. So I stepped out of AA, and I plan on being back. I have a lot of, process people that are like, do you think you're going to be okay?
Right.
You hadn't gone in how long?
Right.
Don't you think God's qualified you to help people there?
Right.
All of that I get, right? But it's like, I spent a lot of time doing it, and now I've got to show up for these kids. Show up for this family. And, at another time when all this slows down, I'll just go back.
Right.
And I've still made myself available to help people, but.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we haven't really even touched on the fact that you built, your own business. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like, so we've got, we're at 53. So,
I'm not getting a bunch of calls, so we're okay.
Yeah.
So it started as a hobby, right? Jamie was bartender. I worked at Chapter House. And we just started doing this for fun. And
making grills?
Started an Instagram. Yeah, making grills. So it all started with an Instagram page. And we would make them for our friends at cost so we could have more pictures to post and promote. And,
right.
And it just kind of went up from there. I've been a juggalo my whole life.
Yeah. Right. Now, juggalo, go ahead for those that don't know.
Okay, so Insane Clown Posse, if you don't know who they are, just Google them, right? So from the outside looking in,
it's kind of scary, dude.
It's weird,
yeah,
right? And I acknowledge that. But so when I was a young lad in my
white dudes in clown makeup,
yes,
Detroit
what they rappers,
like. Right,
and so they started early '90s. Really, is when they, kind of had their thing. So, anyway, when I was a kid and I found ICP, it was like, oh man, this is me.
Yeah,
like I belong. And so here's the interesting thing: is from the outside looking in, it's so weird. But from them, I built my morale.
Right.
And the good part of it, right?
Yeah.
So like the way that I love my family and the way that I love my little brother and stuff and the way that I show up for my friends in Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, you know, it's from them.
Yeah.
And when I got sober, my willingness to believe in some kind of spirituality is from them. So it's interesting how like strange it is and appears.
But it's also one of the most accepting kind of crowds that there is, and like a family-oriented kind of thing.
Right.
A tribe.
Because the more that I learned about it, it was like terrifying when I would see it from the outside. But then I had friends that were in it, and I was just like, "Holy shit, dude! Everybody's welcome" type thing.
So Violent J is an incredible storyteller, right? Which is one half ICP, and there was some things through some of his storytelling in some of these songs that really stuck with me spiritually, right? And I always considered him a spiritual advisor. So, you know, if you want to fast forward a little bit with the jewelry thing, I make their jewelry now. They've both, dude. Violent J and Shaggy have both been to the shop. Super cool dudes, you know, and it's just, you know, it's interesting. Violent J was at the shop, and he looked over, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm really proud of you."
Right.
And I just responded, and I went, "Oh, for what?" It just went, you know, and he goes, "All of this, man, it's so cool where you came from." And I just kind of sat back and went, man, like,
One of my idols thinks that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm doing good, dude.
What a weird twist of
approval
fate.
from that is cool.
And Shaggy, Too Dope, from the other guy in ICP, he actually runs a podcast, and he came to the store and did like a vlog episode at the jewelry store.
Oh, wow.
You know, super cool. I don't know if y'all have seen it. It's funny.
I'll have to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it.
Anyway, I've had a lot of cool experiences.
Right.
I think about
unexplainable stuff, and sounds like a lot of fate.
Well, what happens too is we get so busy, right? Yeah. Life's tough. We get so busy, and we don't stop to like breathe in the air because I'm always going, because it's wake up, you get the kids to school, you go to work, you get the kids home from school, kids have to eat and do their homework and bathe or whatever, and they have to go to bed, and then you get a moment to breathe before it all restarts.
Right.
And so, you know, so many times I'll be working on something and just a piece of silver flies under the shelf and I never see it again. And the length that I would go to for the smallest piece of copper at one time in my life. And now I have real gold and silver, or like a couple lost diamonds that just rolled under the thing, and I'm not going to get them. And it's weird. It's tough, you know.
Sure. You also did some pieces for some other people that were fucking pretty cool.
Riff-Raff?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
One of the goofiest people I've ever. Dude, I love that guy.
In real life, he's goofy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. He's just him all the time.
He is. Yeah.
That's him, dude.
Very crazy guy.
I think it's like him, and like that's why like him and Theo Vaughn are so good together, because that's who they really are. Right. Straight up. Yeah.
He's you know, that was fun. That was a whole deal. And several other cool people. There's some things that I'm not allowed to discuss that are super, just because of NDA purposes. Right. But some of the most famous people in the world have gotten to do pieces. Now, they don't know it was from me, but, you know, that's a cool thing.
Right. So question, like, because I know that Mike actually had a new grill from you.
Yeah.
So
what
how
a
did
goof.
God bless I love him, man.
Yeah.
But so how does you know, like, what does an average grill cost?
Okay, this is interesting. So when I was stealing metals from like 2008 to 2011, whatever, economy problems happened. I didn't understand and pay attention to that, but copper shot up, right? And I remember everyone freaking out, going, gold just doubled, went to 1,200 an ounce, or went to 800 at the time or something. Yeah. So when I started business, it was 1,200 an ounce. Today it's like 2,350. 6 years, it's doubled.
Right.
So with the average grill cost fluctuates. I've raised prices twice in the last 30 days.
Now, is it always one certain metallic makeup or compound makeup?
Can I just silver, have white gold, yellow gold, red gold?
They do all sorts of stuff.
Can I have a Can I have a tinfoil grill?
Well, yeah, but you know, I would just tell you to go to your kitchen and wrap it around.
Right.
I mean, you can pay me to do it if you want.
Right. That's funny.
It's interesting.
Okay, so what's the least expensive?
Sterling silver.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You could get you know, you can get the canines, you can get a 6-piece, you can get an 8-piece. You know, there's endless variables. I can laser engrave your name on them, or a penis, or whatever.
Or a little picture of me jacking off behind a dumpster.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's so. I got all these cool tools and toys.
Right.
Man.
Well, it's like, have you ever like kind of go, man, this is how a dentist feels like?
Yeah.
Or do you go in there, like when you're putting in the mold, you're like, man, dude, you might want to go to your dentist. I'm seeing some.
No, I don't, but I see that. I mean, it's when people don't floss or brush their teeth, it's clear. Right. And so I've seen every type of dental anomaly. You know, I've done probably 20,000 grills at this point.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we stay super busy with those. Right. We do out of state, you know, and so I've seen every variable of teeth. I've seen people with 2 layers of teeth, like a shark.
Hell yeah.
Stuff.
Wow.
So it's been a lot of fun. It's been very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's, again, like, right now I'm in this time where I'm so busy that it's like I have to take these moments, like when I was walking down the street to the suite right now, and I just got this little flash of my old life. Kind of
makes you full circle, kind of respect where you came from and how you don't want to go back.
Right. I feel like just saying that, something I need to touch on.
Yeah.
After CJ died and Davis had died, and there's a lot of good people that deserve to be mentioned that I didn't. But I was still kind of holding on. And when I met Jamie, who's my wife, I told her, I said, all my friends die. And I said, I know everybody says that. This is a real thing, and you'll see. And I said, I got a couple left real close to me. And then they died. So she got to walk through that. And my buddy Gerardo and my friend Isaac.
Okay.
Right? So I don't know if y'all know Isaac Ross.
No.
Okay. And then Gerardo, I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't have. Both really great guys, unexpectedly, And so after that happened, I really separated.
Gotcha.
I thought I can't take any more of this.
Sure.
The lost stuff. And so that's when I probably hadn't been to a meeting since then. And not that I'm jaded towards it.
I was going to say, is that like a little resentment?
No, this is the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
I just think...
Well, in anybody that works in recovery or anything like that, you have to have a tough skin, man. And it's like almost kind of separate yourself from the emotional
100%,
part.
Yeah.
The emotional part of it.
I hate to sound fucked up, but on that side of it, dude, I'm like a complete maniac. Like somebody would come in and I care about them, they're good and they're dying, and I'll go, man, that's sad for their family.
Yeah, that's horrible.
There's a certain level of apathy that you develop after a while towards it because it's just part of the process.
Right.
But my boys, it's different.
Yeah,
right?
No, I get it.
And but at that time, it was like I'm going to focus on these kids.
Right. Yeah, and
I'll be back.
I think that's cool. Yeah.
I'll give someone else.
And I mean,
I
think that's great. I mean, I don't think like with the program you necessarily have to be completely all the time. I mean, because you've got your life to live, man. You've got a busy life that you've built, and you're trying to make a life better for your children.
It was designed to be training wheels, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
It was designed to be training wheels to get you functioning with you and God.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I used to be like, big book is the way, and if you do it another way, if you happen to get sober, you're going to be miserable. I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think that...
Well, and that's what the show is about multiple pathways, because it's always like a combo platter, what works for people.
Right.
It's like, okay, somebody's abstinence works. Somebody can just walk away from it. Somebody needs the program to work. Somebody needs cognitive behavioral therapy, you know? So it's just like, it's always a mixed bag. And there's not just one way,
for sure.
So
I think what I needed, I'm so goddamn self-centered that the steps is designed were so selfish. It's designed to get enough of me out of the way so I can get some of that God in. Right. And I needed to be told to sit down and shut up, and that nobody wanted to hear what I had to say.
Right.
Because that's what recovery was like at the time. In 2011, it was very aggressive, which was perfect for me, thank God.
Sure.
But now I'm like, I don't want anybody to be on Suboxone for the rest of their life. But fuck, if they can wake up and take a Suboxone and not do heroin, do that forever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm all for it.
Right. Yeah.
And
whatever works for you. I'm not going to judge you because you're on mat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I would want them to be free for that one day. But if they never get free from that, at least they're not being a street junkie.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just the worst thing ever.
I agree.
Know?
Well, hey, man, I don't want to cut you off, but, we're at that length, and I appreciate you making the time, and I'd love to have you back on, sometime, and we can talk deeper.
We can do a part two
or whatever, dude. I'd love to have you back on, and we can go deeper into, because the jewelry game just fascinates me, and how that started, and still, I think it's crazy, the whole, you started off with stealing precious metals, and that, like how that intertwined.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, but we'll dive into that next time. But I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, man. And then
anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah.
Shout out Lazy and Crazy, my clothes y'all had mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
My boy, he produces ICP songs.
No shit.
Yeah, he has this clothing brand. But
all right.
My wonderful family.
Yeah, man.
I just, I couldn't get through the day without all the support.
Right.
Hell yeah.
That's why we do this.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure, dude. Well, thanks for coming on, Chadwick. As always, thanks for coming on.
You're
being
welcome.
Sickly,
You're welcome. You're
being
welcome.
sickly and
You're welcome.
coming on.
Hey, Kelly, you're welcome. Hey, brother. At the end of the night, you're welcome.
Hey, brother.
When you rest your head on your little penis-shaped pillow, I'll tell you what, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Anyway, be sure, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We're streaming on all major platforms, so if you're a Spotify person or an Apple Music
smash
person,
that like button if you want to see me lose a leg.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
But next week, we've got my good friend Gypsy Jen coming on. Love her. She is actually in Florida, but going to zoom in. So that'll be fun. And then remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.
That's right.